just to give you a little background, this seminar that I'm doing this morning, you're the first real estate brokerage to have this. I've only taught it once, a couple of weeks ago for the Kitchener-Waterloo Real Estate Association. How it started, an agent that's very close to me was told by a lawyer, we want you to list a particular plex in downtown Toronto. And she had never sold an income property in her life. She's a very good agent, but never sold an income property. So I said to her, here's how you do it. Everything in real estate is step 1, step 2, step 3. I'm systematic. I'm a visual person. I need to see the steps. And I said to her, let's dissect this. And I started to put it on paper, step 1, step 2, step 3. And then all of a sudden I realized, why don't I do this as a seminar? So the investment property. So this is my 55th year in real estate. I started in 1968. I've been a realtor since 68. I was mostly a broker of record my entire career until 10 years ago when I decided, there you are, buddy. We're good. We're started. Yep. All right. I'll tell you a little about myself. So I was a commercial realtor most of my career. I sold a lot of investment property. I also ran one of the largest appraisal firms in Canada, and we analyzed like crazy thousands upon thousands of suites from Vancouver to Halifax. So I'm no stranger to analyzing an investment property, okay? Both as an appraiser, as a realtor. 10 years ago, I got so frustrated by the commercial business, the type of stuff I was doing, selling high-rise apartment buildings and land, because the deals weren't closing. I worked like a year on a deal, and the deals weren't closing. And a buddy of mine, we're talking, I said, look at the residential guys. They're getting 5 points. They're closing anywhere from 30 to 60 days. And it's rare that a residential deal doesn't close. And look at the prices. And at the same time, a broker asked me, why don't you come, closure broker, to come work with us? I said, okay. And I've been back doing residential and some commercial. I do about 2 commercial deals a year now. And with that said, I developed this course. This is one of the 15 courses that I do. And let me see if I can do this without screwing this up. I'm proud. I was 21 years old. I sold 100 homes my very first year in real estate. True story. Absolute true story. I sold the first condo in Ontario. So, and then I developed up here, Malvern, the very first plaza. We did the first plaza up here. I leased all the space. And I'll tell you this, I put 2 of my friends in who were young, with shoppers and pharmacists. They moved in, they took the pharmacy up there, the doctors. They made so much money. Within 2 years, they had luxury homes. Eventually, shoppers came into the area. They killed them, but they made a fortune up here. Malvern was really good for that. And I won't get into all this stuff. But I did about 30 years appraising, and I still have an appraisal designation, North American one. And I sold my appraisal firm some years ago. And I'm still a very active realtor. I'm in the RE/MAX Hall of Fame. And I'll tell you how old I am. This is absolute truth. I knew personally 2 of the LePage family. So Donald LePage, and I can't remember the other LePage. They're both real estate, both in real estate. Their uncles had started LePage. LePage, you can get a Montrealer. All right. So let's define this. What is a small income property? I mean, technically, a house with a basement apartment, if someone's buying it as a passive investor, it's an income property. And they treat it as such, especially if they're going to claim it as a investment property under income tax for income tax purposes. Now, here's what happens. We look at all these properties, including the store with an apartment, and I'm going to be as blunt as possible. They don't make sense. There's no logic to them. They don't give good returns. And all they do is keep going up in value. So your money is made with these more on the capital appreciation. It takes years before your investment is a good investment in one of these properties. I sold a store recently on Bayview Ave, on Mount Pleasant, sorry. An investor was looking at about 3% return. By the time we did all the numbers right to the exact, I don't think they got more than zero. They didn't lose money, but what has happened subsequent in the years since they bought the property, the properties have gone up, even with this market. They've gone up because the area is developing and they're turning down stuff for condos. Okay, so you've got the small investment. For most of this, I would like to focus on the original plexes. These are interesting properties. These are common. I don't care if you go to Timmins, Ontario, or Sault Ste. Marie, Windsor, or Cornwall, all the points of Ontario. They built this plex all over the province. And the question becomes, if you tomorrow were called in to list one apartment here, and the basement apartment to go with it, what do you do? And that's number one question. Number two question, the owner lives upstairs. You can't count their income. How do you work that? So we're going to talk about this, okay? And the other thing is why I love being here today, not because of Justin being such a nice guy. The reason I love being here, I've been doing Zoom for the last 3 years, since just before COVID hits, across Canada. I can't ask questions from you. I can't get your feedback. So we have to wait to the end of the seminar. If you want to ask a question, if you don't understand something, just say, Barry, I don't understand, or Barry, that's not what I know, or challenge me. Let's work together on this, okay? So with that said, what you have to deal with is, ladies and gentlemen, this is the same as investing in a GIC or any other investment. It's an investment, okay? And what you have to look at is like this. First, you've got this set out, like I said, this, if you're listing, it's an A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a step-by-step process. The first step in an investment property is to set out the income in detail. Next step, and that is you take away all the costs in detail. Now, this is the funny part. In the small investment property, a lot of costs that we would put into, say, a high-rise apartment building, we don't put into the small investment. It's a given. I don't understand why. For instance, you'll never see a plex with snow removal contract. And yet you'll never see a high-rise without a snow removal contract. Why we don't put it in, I can't even tell you. It just become the norm of how this is done. Oh, sure. Did I do something?
Yeah, it's okay, man. Just keep.
I unplugged?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, good. I get charged out of that. So what you do is you've got your income minus the cost, and now you've got your profit or cash flow. And next, your cash flow is the basis of valuation. It's what we call the capitalization process or cap rate process. I mean, cap rate, capitalization. Cap rate is just the way we speak in our business for amongst ourselves and certain investors. I'm going to tell you right now, those of you that are analytical, you're doomed. This is not that complex. If you're an analytical that loves to just get in and really dissect, these are not for you, because this is unsophisticated real estate, and unsophisticated real estate is sold to unsophisticated people. I'll give you an example. I have a gentleman in a certain city in Ontario that they own basically the city. If there's a building in the downtown core, land holdings or anything, since the 1930s, this family has accumulated tremendous wealth. I went to court for them on an issue on taxes with income tax. And I'm driving back to Toronto and I said, how did your father start his business? How did your father get into investing in real estate back in the day? He said, my father had a formula, $35. I'm driving and I go, that's all you're going to tell me, $35? He goes, okay. It was the Depression, 1930s. My father looked at a piece of real estate like this. If he could have the income less the expenses and he had a profit of not less than $35 a month, anything $35 and up, he bought it without thinking. What kind of returns did he get? He goes, he didn't know from a return. He just knew he was getting $35 up from cash flow. People buying this, these are not, have you ever met people who are rich in real estate and you go, how did you do this? Because you're probably one of the stupidest people I've ever met. They're not smart, but they're shrewd. It took me, I think I was in my 40s before I realized smart and shrewd are two different things. There's a lot of smart people that aren't shrewd, but they also have something else, blind guts. They just buy it. They know one thing, they got to invest. I mean, I look around this room, there's a lot of different people from different countries here. And what do people come? I've argued this for years. One of the biggest freedoms people come to Canada for is to buy real estate. They have a burning desire to buy, and therefore, this is why, and they don't know from capitalization rates, they don't know from income analysis and all this. So let's go through this. Here's your first step. You see, I got 1, 2, 3. This is a step-by-step process. The first thing, you set out the rents for each suite. You got 3 suites. Now you've got the owner's suite. The owners died. The lawyer called you in and they want you to list this. And you go, oh, what am I going to do? I don't know what the rent is. You have to do a rent study. What do I do for rent study? I go on Google. I go rent it or one of the rental things. I start looking through. What are they asking for rents? And I look and I go, they could get maybe $2,000 a month for this place. Plus hydro. Because you want to get as much net out of it as possible. And you look at it and you say, okay, and I have to estimate the owner's apartment. Were there any incentives for rent? I go to take over, I had a court order to take over a property as the agent recently, and I found out that one of the guys' rent was ridiculously low, but he also looks after the building. So you have to see if that's filtered. Are the rents legal? That's a real, when you're speaking to your seller, you have to say, are all rents legal? And you say, what's an illegal rent? Well, they may have boosted the rent while a tenant, they played with the tenant, they did something they shouldn't, but maybe the unit itself. Let's look at this room. There's one door. Would this be a legal basement apartment? No. Where's the window to get out? Where's the escape? Where's the fire code regulation? You could not live in this room. So we have to look, is the unit illegal? That is a real problem because we have people just put in all kinds of units and basements that are not legal. Are the rents low, at market, or above? That again, I'm not a rent expert. I find one of the hardest things to estimate for me is rent. I don't know what a rent should be. So I'm on Google. I'm looking around at rent studies. Now, are there any units coming vacant? That's good, not bad. Because when they're vacant, you can charge market rents. Number 2, you can have it painted up, looking good. And it's also easy to say, I got a lockbox on that unit. You just go and look at it. And usually in a triplex, like I showed you, the top floor and the second floor are identical units, except for wear and tear. Expenses. This is going to be your hardest one. I'm going to stop right here. As I said, these are unsophisticated people. Sometimes you're going to find a widow or a widower. My wife looked after it. My husband looked after it. They don't have a clue. And what you're going to ask is, can I see your income tax return from last year on the building? Because they don't have the expenses. By the way, anyone that you're putting into an investment property, it's a funny thing about the dollar store. It may be $1, $2, $3. But if I walk into the dollar store to buy a couple of little washers, or I pick up a couple of screws because I'm in a hurry, at the end of 20 years, $2, $3 adds up a lot of money. People don't keep their receipts properly. I keep every receipt possible and be careful. And the revenue is not stupid. You can't renovate your kitchen at home and shove it through the investment property. It's not that stupid. But it doesn't say you can't sort of have it. Get the first thing easy to get is their tax receipt for the real estate, real estate taxes. You go through, I'm going to go show you an income and expense. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Just anybody that wants a blank income and expense statement, ask Justin, he'll get a hold of me. I'll email it back to you. Okay. I'll show you what it looks like and you can have that. It's not an original. Everybody uses the same one except for the type and font. Okay. This is a big one. What about the repairs? It's like a house. When you take a listing, don't you say, how old is your roof? When did you put the furnace in? How's your furnace doing? How's your air conditioning? You know, in the winter, you have to take their face value. Is the air conditioning working? Does it work? You have to ask these questions. It's the same thing here. What repairs are needed? If things are good, you're hoping they need some repairs. On an investment property, you're hoping it needs some repairs. Because if I have to spend capital money on the building, I can charge more on the rent. It's not an easy process because the tenants will fight me and what has been made over the years. So these are the basics, okay? Now, here is the pro forma. This is what we call the income and expense statement. And this is a blank. And you can have this, just ask Justin. Justin, I'll send it to you, okay? So here's what we do. By the way, the word ancillary is spelled wrong there. It's my mistake. It's not spelled properly. And I've got it embedded into a PDF and I can't get it out. Once it's PowerPoint, I can't change it. Okay, you probably could because you're tech. Now, let's go through this. Parking income. Believe it or not, even a small place, if you're in the city, if you're on Avenue Road in Toronto, you may get $50 to $100 more a month for parking because parking's at a premium. Not out in Scarborough, not out in the burbs. Laundry machines. If there's only one washer and one dryer on coin, sometimes they don't really make money because by the time you pay electricity and water, oh God, I almost said it's a wash. What a bad pun. What a bad pun. So you have to look at that. Now, I had clients that had some income properties in main streets in Toronto, one on Davenport. He had stores with apartments, he had billboards on top. Great rental, no headaches. You got a net income with no overhead. Well, over the roof. Now you start going through this. Taxes, insurance, hydro, heat, water management, maintenance. I put inclusive of the snow removal. I want you to look down here. A, B, C, D, E. You with me? Everything is labeled. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not rocket science. I hate using that phrase, but I just did. This is simplistic. You want it all because here's what happens. There's a famous court case, a couple of them, where the agents that only took what the seller said as representation. It wasn't true. The people did not get the investment and return they wanted, and the agents got nailed in court. You don't want to be that agent. And you have to put a disclaimer on that where you got the sources and everything. And this is what I do. Let me just go through here. You see the two X's I've taken out. In small investment property, we don't allow for management because Mary and Bill that own the building do their own management. They rarely, on a small triplex, they do their own. They don't hire outsiders. If they have 4 or 5 buildings, then it's a different story. Maintenance, and here's the other thing. I don't know why, but maintenance doesn't seem to show up on statements from agents on small investment properties. It's just not there. That's what would be there for high-rise, bigger apartment buildings. All right. Now, you've got to be diligent. The case that I cite there is the Wong case. And Wong basically took all the information from the seller. He didn't verify it. I testified in the case and showed this is what the income really was. This is what the loss was. There was hundreds of thousands of dollars of big investment property. If they don't have good records, you have a problem, and you have to state in there This, to the best of our knowledge, we have limited knowledge. We have an estate. We do not have access to all the records. This is an estimate only. You've now just given yourself a disclaimer, you're off the hook. I will say this to you, by the way, and this is not because I'm standing here today. I am a RE/MAX agent, okay? I have spoken more at Royal LePage offices than any other franchise. Go figure that, but I have. And I'm going to say this to you, in the litigation I've done, I've testified in 600 trials. You know how many LePage agents I've ever come across that have been sued? About 2. Now, I've got a couple of brokerages in Toronto. 2 of them are owned by good friends of mine. One of them I've done 13 cases against them. Another one I've done 12. And I was going to go into their office and say, why don't you do my seminar, how not to get sued? And then it hit me. Why would I do that? I just killed a golden goose. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing well. You're doing well. My grandkids got shoes. Yeah. But I'm serious. I've almost never had, you guys really, I have tremendous respect for LePage. It's got a great ethic to it. Ethics always has. It sets a standard in real estate. I also say about Boston, very good. So you got lots of work so far. No, it's not. You sit down and you ask a lot of questions. You fill it all out. So let's look at this pro forma now and the concept of capitalization or rate of return on investment. Return on investment. Okay, here's what we've got. Cap rates are how we measure the value of investment. This is the multiplier or division. It doesn't matter. There's one part we call gross rent multipliers. They're not used that much anymore. We multiply the gross income. And there's this, the cap rate, which we use to divide. And I'll show you how we do it. Cap is short for capitalization. If you were to go today to, I'm just looking myself, I've got a perk. I've got money sitting in my account. It's the TD's paying me crap. I went looking around. Meridian's got the best rates. Why? I went shopping. Isn't that the same thing you do with an investment property? You shop for the best investment. So you see what it's the same as a GIC. If a building, if 2 plexes are near each other, one showing almost a 1% return, one showing 4%, which one am I going to buy? I'm going to buy the 4, unless the 1% has what they call upside and I can get it to a higher level. The concept is the same. You want a rate of return, except our rate of return is called the cap rate. Okay. But here's the deal. This was 2 apartments cut up plus a basement apartment. This is a headache property downtown. This is a junction. I know that property. This is a headache. Why? The type of tenants you have, they're not stable. They don't look after it as well. There's the same plex again. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody can grow old in there. You can have a tenant in there for 20, 30 years, especially an older person. This is a better plex. These are already, now you're into 6, these are 4 units plus 2 in the basement, stores. That is just buying a condo and renting it out, an investment property. I even put gas stations, investment property. A gas station is slightly different. You got to get into the gas, the business and all that. But it shows that it's another commercial type property. Even that, I want to see what my return is, okay? And it's all predicated on what the interest rates are right now. Now, sources for cap rates. How do I find a cap rate? I don't know anything about investment real estate. By the way, I do this all the time. The first thing is, what is my investor looking for? Oh, you want 10% return. No problem. Come back again. When 1977 comes back, you'll be the first to know. 10% return. There was a time we could send it to Sudbury and get a 7 or 8% return. That's gone. They're the same as we are almost. Agents who, now I pick up the phone, I call another agent who sells investment property, and I say to them, you've got a good commercial division at Royal LePage. Oh, guys, what am I looking at first? They won't even touch small investments, but they'll still give you an idea. Commercial real estate appraisers, very good source, and also your lender and mortgage brokers. So you look around, because I'll tell you this, the worst source of income and analysis is MLS. Because so much of the information on MLS is misleading or not enough. Some of the agents, I'll show you that in a minute. Terrible, the way they put them on. Now, let's do some big, simple math. And there's a formula called income, rate, and value. So here's IRV formula. The net income divided by the rate, $100,000 at 10% gives me $1 million. It's that simple. Thank God I could do tens. Thank God for Greg, I do 2.5% in my head. What I'm saying to you, this is the formula. This formula goes back to 1880s. It's same formula across North America, been in use by every appraisal association there is, and every investor and everything. This is the basis of real estate valuation. No, and that includes the biggest high-rise building or the smallest. It's the same formula. So let's look at this now. I have a $50,000, I have a plex that kicks off $50,000. They've got the gross income less the expenses. After everything, I am left with $50,000 before mortgage. We don't talk about mortgage yet. I got $50,000. What is it worth? Well, I know that by doing my survey, investors want 3.5% return on their money. With that said, it's simple. There's the IRV formula. Income divided by rates equals value. That is what all you have to know. You have to know the pro forma, and you have to know this. This you can get. This you shop around for, and you vary it. Obviously, a 3% return will give you a higher value. 2% return will give you a higher value. I know of a building that sold. I wasn't involved. I just know about it. There was a dentist. He had to get money at the end of his year. He bought a very big apartment building with zero recently. Why? Because at zero, he's not losing money. And he knows that next year the rents will go up a little bit, and the next year and next. And remember, even if a building doesn't go up in value, every month the mortgage, you're eating away at the principal. So you're getting building equity, building equity, building equity. I mean, there are people that bought apartment buildings in the 60s and 70s, and their grandchildren are living off the investment because it's pure cash flow. There's no mortgage. Can you imagine owning a high rise today with no mortgage? And it's all cash flow? You're not getting the tax on it, but still it's a big dollar. Are we good so far? Confusing anybody? Please ask a question.
Yeah, you said that we shop around for that number 3.5.
Yeah, the cap rates.
So based on the MLS listing information, so if somebody's saying that cap rate is 3.5, whatever, so we look for that kind of thing.
If you can't find it on MLS. MLS is very locked.
I know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Okay, here's the other thing. Please understand this. There's two MLS systems we have. We have residential, we have commercial. If I am doing an investment property, it goes on both. I put two listings out, one on the commercial side, one on the residential side. Usually commercial agents do much more detailed analysis in MLS. What we do is we use an attachment as the pro forma and put it in. But I'll show you some bad examples. So that's what it's worth, $1,430,000. Here's a case study, okay? Back to the plex again. You meet with Mrs. Price. She wants to sell the triplex. She lives upstairs. She can't get up. Going up and down the stairs is killing her nowadays. The trouble with these plexes was, because they were raised basements, there's no way to put an elevator. I figured a way to put them in. It's taken me a while, but I finally figured it out. You ask about the rents. Here's a case to case. Are the tenants month to month or are they in leases? Most of them will be month to month. How long have the tenants been in place? Has anyone given notice to terminate? In the last 2 years, what has she filed on her income tax? You want to know that? Use the form that I gave you to dissect. If she's missing any figures on the pro forma, you have to estimate it. Is there any additional rental income, like laundry machines and stuff? But you see, even though one laundry machine, a washer, one dryer don't give you money, at least it'll break it even towards the water and the electrical in most cases. So you do the same thing you do with a house. How old is your roof? What's your furnace like? What's been done? Is there asbestos? If it's older and it was built back in the day, there's a lot of 1960s and 70s plexes in Scarborough, all over Toronto, where there's asbestos in the property. What needs to be replaced, and do you have permission to speak to her accountant? Because you want to speak to her accountants, okay? All right, so now we start to do this. Could you tell us the door, please? Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, now we dissect it this way. Apartment 1, apartment 2, apartment 3, they have 2 units in the basement, small units. This is where do I get this figures? Maybe from their income tax. I got them off their own statements, whatever. Parking income, and this one I gave it. Laundry, I've got that. This is an actual, by the way. I took this off of an agent that did a very good job on an MLS listing. This is from a real MLS listing. So now I've got the effective gross income at just over 100, almost 110,000. We good so far? Okay. Now we get to the expenses. Whoops. So we know this is the easiest one for us to get. Insurance. Oh, I can't believe how many people don't know how much they pay for insurance. Just don't know. I've called insurance brokers and just said to them, I put my own insurance. If you have a triplex at this age, roughly what's it going to cost you? Roughly. And I'll put down MLS, it's the thing. Hydro, they don't pay a lot because in this building, the tenants pay their own hydro. But they still have hydro for the stairwells. They still have hydro for the laundry room. And they need hydro to keep the furnace going. So they can't say they have no hydro costs. Now, I have seen buildings where they have metered it in such a way that the tenants pay the hallways and everything. It's not the right way. Gas, this is going to be your biggest expense on your business expenses. Water, and there's your total. So here's my net income. Okay, pretty simple. You ask a lot of questions. So we now know, how do you verify? See, I've got the rents. I want the owner's bookkeeping. I want their leases. I want tax records. And you see what I've done? I verified each one of these. Number C. Well, I want to know that. I want to see the contract for the laundry machine. I'm not worried about that. Oh, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Here again, let me get over to this side myself. Taxes, same thing as now. Can you get the taxes as a realtor on the phone? Yes, you can, but should I do a different way? You find out who their lawyer is. Their lawyer can get it on the phone. Yeah. So I call my lawyer's office and I say, Irene, because we're going to be listing this, can you phone and say you need the taxes? So I've done it legally. Okay. My brother's a lawyer, and more than once I've sort of said I am, and then I found out I could be in very serious trouble, so I stopped doing that a long time ago. I was told that that's no. Hydro statement. So you see where I'm going. They need. I have no idea how many people have. They ask for expenses. They bring you a shoebox. Question. Go ahead.
What about the maintenance expenses?
In a small investment property, they just don't show up. They're there. But they feel when you buy a small investment property, you're not the owner anymore. You're the owner, the manager, and the maintenance person. That's just the way it is.
I have a question.
I have an answer.
So if the owner is the manager and does everything, do they pay themselves the salary?
Ah, what a good question. No. Here's the deal. I had investment properties. And I sold them eventually because I had two properties where they ended up being crack houses. I couldn't take it anymore. I was just getting the tenants, I screamed tenants did everything, and I still got fooled. One on Woodbine and Danforth, crack house, was horrible. Anyways, I opened a limited company called Lebow Management. I put a truck into the business, everything else, but I couldn't do my own wages. If you go to Canadian Tire and buy a lock or Home Depot, you can put the lock through. But if you call a locksmith, that goes through. But if you go do it, no. But if you have an adult child, they could do it and you could put it through, especially if they're still going to, if you're a teenager in their 20s going to school or whatever, they can make some money. You can share, they can do it. You can pay them. You can't pay yourself.
But then what does it come under, management or
Management.
maintenance?
Maintenance management, yeah.
But you said you cannot show management fees or.
Well, no, you do in your income tax. But we don't do it when we sell the buildings or list the buildings. We just don't. No, ask me why. I've never figured it out myself. Mortgage companies will look at it. So now what? Look at all the complex math. To be an appraiser, you have to take a lot of education. I had to go to, not me, all appraisers. I was at York University taking stats, regression analysis, all kinds of stuff. And you know what? We were the only ones using it. Clients were buying and selling the way we were analyzing. We overanalyze. It takes about 5 years to become a certified appraiser in Canada. I was going to say Ontario, in Canada. So this is the formula. Earth, net income over the rate divided by the rate gives you value. Okay. So we have $90,000 here, plus whatever. It's 4%. And that's the value at 4% return. Change it to 3.5, change it to 3%, change it to 5%. Whatever you divide it by, that is the figure. Now, if you want to reverse it, you're on MLS. You see a building that's sold for this money, 2,265. You see that it had a 90,000 and change income. You divide this by this, and it shows you 4%. You can also alter the formula to get the cap rates. You can reverse it. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. And here's what happens if you go to 3.5%. So it goes, look at 2,265 at 4, 3.5, we're up to 2.6. The lower the return, the higher the value. Now, let's look at this. Go ahead.
How did you get the cap rate?
I asked, I looked around, I looked at the market. That's exactly what I said. I asked appraisers, I asked mortgage brokers, I saw what was on MLS, I asked other agents. I asked the client.
Is there any sort of standard cap rate? How do you?
No, it varies. So I started real estate at 10%.
Cap rate at 10%, and you can average at 5%. So how do you determine?
You're out of the market. Nobody's, you can't buy.
It is perhaps I'm out of the market today, but this is a matter of expectation, right?
Yeah.
So what is an expectation? Because if somebody has money and they invest it in GIC or something.
Yeah.
They can still make 5% there. So why should they bother with all this?
Okay, let's throw this on the table. You've got a GIC at 5%.
Yeah.
10 years from today, what do you have? Compounded 5%.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a piece of real estate. Am I going to get in 10 years? Forget if the market's going down right now. Will I get
Basically,
better?
you're saying that capital gain is the real motivation for investment.
Yeah. Let me throw this at you. If you really analyze a plex property, it's the dumbest thing you'll ever do to buy one. And yet everybody that bought them got rich. I'm being dumb. Stores with apartments, they're even worse. Why? Because the city taxes stores at such a rate that it's unbelievable. A small little store now, a shop on Eglinton and Markham area or whatever, Lawrence and Eglinton, Lawrence, and Markham Road will get $25,000-$30,000 of your taxes. That means before you open your door, you've got to make $3,000 a month just to pay the taxes. Like, it's unbelievable. The commercial taxes are horrible.
Can you go to the previous slide?
Can I? We'll find out. Yes.
So you said if the cap rate is low, the price is high.
That's right.
So then I can throw in a lower cap rate just, or a higher cap rate just to come to a lower price.
You could do that. It depends, but you see, you've got to see what the seller's asking. The seller's gonna go high. They're gonna almost sell them for -2% instead of a 2%, 3% return. Sellers are greedy, they want the highest price.
Right.
You're gonna walk in and go, I won't go less than 3%. My investor will only go, it has to be a minimum of 3%. If you start pushing 4 today, you're not gonna get it in Toronto. I'm telling you, it's rare. They're hovering below 3.5%. That's the going rate. It's no different than a house price. You can't, I got an offer the other night on a property I have. They come in and I said to them, what's the basis of your offer? It's low. This is what they can afford. I said, really? So go to Loblaws, get to the thing, put everything on the conveyor belt, and when they go to pay, say, I'm sorry, I can only afford to pay this much. It's the market value. You can't do that. Oh geez, I hit the wrong thing. Oh, good, got it. I don't have my right clicker on, so the lower the cap rate, the higher the market. So there's your two comparisons right there. Now, let's look at this. Now we got the question that I'm waiting for that you haven't asked me. What do you do with a mortgage?
Yes.
Here's where the problem lies. I have been away. I just got back yesterday. Okay. I haven't had a chance to up the mortgage rate. The mortgage rate when I did this was 4%. It's higher rate. So with what I've got to look at, you've got a new first mortgage that requires the full amount to service the debt. Now let's look at this. If we have a market value of 2.6, first mortgage is $1,435,000. That's what they're going to give you. Your new first is only 55%. Why? Because the mortgage wants all the cash flow to cover their mortgage and taxes. They don't want a negative cash flow. You have to put up 45% of your money. You have to put up almost 50% there to buy a unit. So if you're looking at a $2 million investment, you better come up with $1 million. Now, that's with A lenders, the TDs and rail banks. If you go to B lenders like home savings and people like that, you can get a higher ratio. The trouble is you're not going to get the kind of leverage that our parents and our grandparents had back in the day. The banks today, the lenders are fussy. They want their attitude is if there was a power of sale tomorrow, we need to take over that property, it would be income cover on mortgage payments. That's the question. And therefore, it is now even looking worse for investment property because you've got to deal with very well-to-do people. People have to have a lot of money to buy investment property because of mortgages. You need $1,165,000 to buy that plex. Now, I can go to a B lender and probably get it down to $400,000 or $500,000. My mortgage payments are going to be higher, and I'm going to have to. They're going to want a building, hopefully, that needs some work that I can bring up the income. Okay, that's where the kicker is. So, a lot of investors pay cash. I don't know where all these people. I don't know. I never dated any of their daughters. I don't know where these people come from, but they got cash. What are the investors' alternatives? Like you said, I can get a GIC. I can get a 5% return, even 6 if I push. Not on GIC, but on some of the funds. Right now, the funds aren't doing well. They have been up to now. So the alternatives now for me to get a mortgage on this is to go to a B lender, a private lender. Some lenders now, if you put on a first, they won't let you put on a second. It's right in the contract. They will not let you put on a second. And that is also a problem. Whoops. B lenders. B lenders will consider if you could buy a building that needs work and what they call upside, because you're going to raise the rents. B lenders will include that you're losing a couple of tenants and maybe your rents are gonna go higher. B lenders will look at renovations. You can add a suite, you can take a look. I had a client that bought on Markham Road, a little bigger building. He took out, they were built-in garage, you've seen the apartment buildings with the built-in garages underneath. He took out the garages. He went to the people that had the garages. Okay, you're paying so much of, here's the deal, I'm giving you free parking, no more paying, but you're gonna be outside. He paved over an area, he took the apartment, the garages and made bachelor apartments out of them legally. He did it all with legal, and he got more income. So there's ways of doing things. Also, they may take another property you have as an investment. Maybe they'll take your principal residence and put a mortgage on, blanket mortgage. The higher rates and all this other stuff. B lenders, trust companies, savings loans, credit unions, some mix. I don't know if you know what a MIC is, mortgage investment corporation, private lenders. So which plex here is more attractive to the investor? Which one is more attractive? The one that is pristine and absolutely perfect is like buying a GIC. That's your fixed rate. You're gonna get 3.5% return. That's it. The one down here, the shabby one, I think that's one of your own signs. I think that was the LePage sign. That shabby one, as the tenants get kicked out and moved out, I buy tenants out. As they move out, you renovate, you bring the apartment up to a higher standard, you have more rent, you can turn around and fix the balconies up if they need it, the roof, and charge more rent. It's not an easy, it's not as simple as I'm saying, there's a process, but you can do it. So the building that needs more work can be the more attractive investment. Upside, plumbing, roof, balconies, paving. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do to a building to get more back, as the tenants pay it back. It gets amortized, it goes over so many years. And here's the other thing. If you buy a larger building, the tenants are gonna fight you to the death. They're gonna go to hearings, they're gonna make your life miserable. It's you against them. That's just the way it is. Lenders will go up to 80% if there was enough cash flow. But they want an appraisal and they want that's phase one. Phase one environmental, which is just to say that it's never been. I've had investment, I sold one, turned out it was built on top of a 1940s coal yard and all kinds of fuels in the ground. I had another one where the oil tank had burst. We didn't know. And the deal didn't close. So that's another problem. They want positive cash flow. Some tips. Okay. Beware of Barry Lebow things. I can't tell you how many. Now, we're out in this part of town. I don't know where you work. I'm sure you're not all just because we're in the East doesn't mean you work in the East. You work Toronto or Ontario. If it's older than a certain amount of years, look out for Barry Lebow. All you have to see is a pipe coming out of the ground near the house, got a oil tank. And if they say, oh, we capped it years ago, prove it. Tell me, did you really take it out? Asbestos is a problem. It's not a big deal. It's not as much a health issue as people think it is. Is parking illegal? I had a case in London where a small investment property turned out none of the parking spots were legal. The agents got nailed. You have to find out. Is the basement, that's the real big one. Is the basement unit legal? If it's an older plex, it's been there for years, the answer is probably. They turn a blind eye. How do I know? Sometimes I'll go right to the assessment. I want to see the archives and I want to go far back. And I'll see this thing's had a basement apartment since 1968. I want to see that. And last but not least, be careful of bad tenants. And I think we could do a complete seminar here on bad tenants, and we've all had them. By the way, as an agent that deals with tenants on many of the houses I have with tenants, I just bribe them. How much is it going to cost to do the move? What do you want to get out of it? You know, and that's what I've been doing. I'm paying them out, get rid of them. Being a small landlord can be a headache. Being a small landlord can be wonderful Because it depends on the quality of the building and the quality of the tenant. So for investment purposes, you want to put people into the best kind of carefree deal. It is not hands-off, it's hands-on. You're not gonna sit back and just collect. If you have, it's like, a lawyer told me about lawsuit. If you have one lawsuit, that's for a lawyer's perspective, it's a headache. If you have 20, it's a business. So if you have a bunch of small buildings, then you have management, you sheltered, you don't know from nothing, you can be that person. And I envy that person. And are you prepared? Can you do your own work? Are you handy? If you're not, no. I was lucky, I was handy. Now I'm not. I physically, I only one knee. It's not easy. So there are various management bookkeeping. You want a good system. I'm a QuickBooks guy. I think QuickBooks is the easiest program ever out there for everything. And yes, you can get a bookkeeper to do it and charge for the bookkeeping service. Whoops. Added investigative. You want to start talking, here's the problems in the building. I got balconies, asbestos, I said fire code compliance. Are they in compliance? When's the last time? Building code, roof inspection, HVAC. Do they, and appraisal and everything else. The trouble with MLS listings, look at this listing. I hope you can see this. This is 4 units. You see anything on here with income and expenses? That's how it was listed. It wasn't on commercial, on the commercial ICI part of the board, only in residential. And this is it. There's no attachments. The agent didn't know. You know how common this is? Have you ever looked at investment properties on MLS and go, okay, so what kind of return is, what's here? And you don't see a thing. So we've got that. Now let's look at this agent. This agent, bless you. This agent, look at the expense, look at how it's all set up. That's a proper ICI listing. That's a proper. So how do you get your cap rate? You find these type of listings and you analyze them. And I look at that. When I was appraising, we had a young person come in every night to go through all the ICI listings and find everything to do with income, write them out, figure them out, and tell us, and put, they'd write in the on the side there in red, 3.5, 3.78, whatever it was. And this is what they were doing for us, trying to figure it out. So we would just open the books later and we just go through them and this cap rate, this cap rate, this cap rate. Took a lot of time away from us. So that's a professional agent. That's how it should be. I'm the opposite. I'm a combination of there. I use the pro forma as an attachment and set it out much more details. I like more detail. So, sorry.
If it's under 4 units, it's still under residential, right?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
So if you put it under the residential, it's not wrong. It's just that doesn't have enough.
It's not, it's wrong because it doesn't give you you're saying nothing. You're telling them
Sometimes they
nothing.
have attachments, but they are not all.
There were no attachments. There was nothing. All this agent had on here was, it was a nice building in a good area.
But would the mortgage be as a residential or as a commercial? Because it's two different.
You could, on this particular one, you could probably get away with a residential mortgage on this.
Right, so with the 20% down,
Yeah, but hold on. Are you living in it or you're not living in it?
they're not living.
You're not living in it, it's possible. It depends on the lender. What's happening now? Why I'm hesitating? In the last couple of months, the lenders are changing everything they're doing. The lenders are tightening up now. And I can't keep up with what's going on. I've got to call into one of my favorite mortgage brokers. It's tuned in. We've missed each other and I want to go over what's going on right now because I've lost a handle. I've been away for a couple of weeks and I want to see what's happening. Okay. This is from an actual appraisal report. I'm sorry.
How do you calculate the vacancy allowance?
Oh, you don't put it into these. But we do want to highlight.
For the pro forma, how do you calculate that?
You look at the past performance of the building. You have to know what the buildings, oh, we've never had a vacancy. As soon as one announced, we got somebody coming right in. That's all. You know, it depends on where it is. Remember, right now, as bad as real estate prices are coming down somewhat, rents keep going up. What a dichotomy. What a great time to buy a property. Prices are down, rents are up, your returns are better. You got a chance right now. So here's what this appraiser said. I'm not going to read this for, I wasn't a re-instructor for 8 years and they threw us out. Guys like me, they got rid of us. Why? Because we would teach the way things should be. Then they brought in their type of instructor on page 43, paragraph 14, and he starts reading. And we sit there, they read the book. Those of you who took the courses in the last 10 years, these people, I'm surprised you're here because you should still be asleep in the Maria class. So I don't do that. Basically, what the guy's saying, this is an actual appraisal. From limited data, we find cap rates from 2.69 to 4.5, a mean, which is an average, 3.46, to a median of 3.42. They find out upscale plexes right now are asking between 1 to 3.5. Then it is my opinion. By the way, an appraisal is an opinion. It's not absolute. Two appraisers, the same office, trained by the same person, they have two different values. It's an opinion. And therefore, this appraiser concludes why it's 3%. He's got the ML, but it's bracketed. It's within the range. Please.
The cap rate, there's a formula for cap rate also, right? I mean, you can divide NOI by the assessed value and get the cap rate.
Well, you can't use assessed.
Based on these market, like other properties comparison, when you do it.
Don't even look at assessment. They're so out of whack. It's unbelievable. When I was appraising, I was constantly in court fighting the assessments. They're really out of whack. They have a different way. They don't look at income and expenses for apartments. They look at the price per suites. They don't look at income and expenses. So two buildings side by side, they could be identical. To them, they're identical. The rents are completely different. No, I don't use it. Don't use assessment. So summing up, you've got to look at the condition. You've got to be diligent. So you've got to review. Here's what it boils down to. One, you want all the details of expenses and income. You want to review the leases. You want to know what the repairs are. Okay. Is everything legal? And are there any contracts? They could turn around and say, well, the hot water. Okay. What if they got one of those stupid furnace contracts? God forbid. Anybody had one of those?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Then you have to ask questions. Any environmental issues like the oil tank? It could be floodplain, not so much in Toronto, but if you're outside. Are there work orders against the building? Any delinquencies in rent? Anybody behind in their rent? And then the other thing is you're going to have to get to know some people in the business, appraisers, commercial people. And that's it. Have I covered it? Yeah. Okay. Do you hit the lights, please? Can you turn on the lights? It's I did 3 hours in the Toronto Real Estate Board up on stage on the podium, and a young lady looked at me and said, your fly's been open. And she was so pretty and so young that I looked at her and said, you noticed. I did 3 hours. So ever since I was very careful about that. True stuff, the true stuff. Anyone have any questions whatsoever? Have I given you some lights?
I have a question.
Yes, true. Yes.
In the beginning there, you mentioned that it is a triplex.
Yes.
And if the owner's giving one, and can they sell each unit separately,
No, that would go condominium.
right?
That's condominium or co-op.
Okay,
And that's not easy to do.
so the next question is, based on the income of that one unit, can you base the value of based on the income of each unit and then add it up? And then come up with.
You lost me.
So
You
let's
can't
say
take
there
the
are-
one unit, multiply it by
No,
two.
let's say you have 5 units, and then each one,
You have to know each unit.
yeah, so let's say income from apartment A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yes,
and then can you come up with the value based on the income?
that's exactly what we've done. It's exactly what we've done.
Okay, right, yeah, because then we.
That's your gross income. That is your gross income, please.
So if in such a property, if the owner wants to continue there as a tenant,
Good question.
then you add notional rent for them.
Yeah, exactly. Like they may turn around and say. That actually is the case that where I started. Now that you said, the lady I helped, mom was in her late 80s. They needed cash. It was worth a couple $1 million. Mom wanted to stay. For the next, they wanted a 5-year lease. If she lived that long, because she's not in good shape. So they were gonna make it, but then you can also do what they call a sweetheart lease, give them a little better deal. Because you want to sell, you want to buy the building. Yeah, of course you can. It's done quite often. It's no different than I own a store and I'm in the store. And I got an apartment upstairs, but I need money for my business. I sell the building, but I still stay in town. So we fix the rent and that's it. Anybody else? Any other questions? Go ahead.
You were saying something about the tenants, like
Yeah.
to remove the, well, let's say we have a property we just sold. Two different tenants, upper and lower. The lower one is trying to give her time that, okay, I don't think I'm going to move soon, you sold it. So, well, I'll not find a place and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I have one on King Street just recently, and I said to the tenant, look, we're selling the property. You know that you're eventually going to be forced to move. One way, if we work together, it'll be nice. If we don't work together, all you're doing is taking 6 months to 9 months to make it go longer. You're still going to pay rent. You're still going to have to, and you're going to go through all this, and all you're going to have is ulcers. And nobody wins. I said, here's the deal. If we know you're going to leave anyways, why don't you start looking for another place? We'll give you a full, it was a luxury apartment, 2,500. We'll give you 20, the last month free. And that way you're moving anyways, because why? The end is coming. Take the 2,500. The most I paid out so far is $5,000. The most. Now, the hard one is when you got an idiot. I had a guy, he was a stoner, he was drunk all the time.
This one is pretty much same, like.
Oh, low quality people, basement apartment, you know, and then you pick up, you've got this guy that drives a motorcycle with tattoos on it. I've done that too, but
Really good.
you gotta be a little careful today.
So very question, I've got someone in a condominium here. The rent is like ridiculously low in the last 5 years. Okay. You're saying that if I sell the property or try to sell it and it's sold, we have a problem getting them out?
Yeah, if they fight you, yeah. I mean, legally you can get them out, but all of the tenants got all the rights. We don't. All the tenants do is file an objection.
How about if you give them notice that the owner wants to present it?
Well, that's the whole thing, the
And
N12.
And again, it says that even if you give that N12 to them, for them, it says that you don't have to, move out with this notice.
That's
Why
right.
still owe it, stay there.
Yeah.
So,
You're gonna oppose the form.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the system is rigged against the landlord. And you could take, how long could it take? I've heard of a year or more.
Right now, there is 7 months wait for the court date.
That's I hear you.
I'm talking, but I'm saying for rulings and everything. And remember this, these people that are appointed as the, in the system to be the chair or moderator or arbitrator or whatever, political appointments, they're not going to go against the system. It's the same thing when we used to fight assessments and also committee of adjustments. They're all appointees. If they rule the wrong way, they're not going to be out of a job. So what do you think they're going to? They're going to kiss the butt of the person who gave them the job. It's not a good system, but that's the cards. So can you get rid of them? Bribe them. There's nothing else you can do. Money
You have to
talks.
pay them 1 month, you have to pay them 1 month, right, if you want them out. But-
Well, I paid them up to 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to pay them.
Yeah, 1 month and month.
Yeah.
Right.
By law, you
must.
Even though you have 1 year lease.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to go after.
They
1
know
year.
that.
Well, here's the other thing. Most of them know their rights.
Yeah.
there's one area of real estate I refuse to be involved in, and that's this one. I will not get involved in landlord tenant stuff. I don't read the act. I don't want to know about it. Sometimes I get real estate. I get listings where there is a tenant. I'm going, great, how am I getting rid of them? I just bribe them out. I just pay them out, get them out. I haven't had much problem. But it depends how much money is at stake, right? I always say, look, you're gonna be out of here anyway, so let's make it easy. Whether you want to walk away with money or not.
And now this guy is selling already for like less than what was there before. So he's already losing money, and now I don't know how much this guy is going to.
Let me put this to you. I've been a large landlord. I've managed big buildings too. It's not a field for me. I don't want to be a landlord again, especially at my age. I don't want to be a landlord. For somebody starting out, it's a great thing to do. I'd start old. I'm driving my kids crazy. Buy small investment property. They got the money, but they don't want to. My son's very handy. He can do anything, but no, doesn't want the headaches. He managed a small building when he was living when he first got married. He managed the building they were in. He goes, I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah, that's pretty much money.
Okay.
How much rent can you increase if you are going to do some renovation?
Oh, you can, there's percentage you can get back. It has to amortize, it has to go over years. You can't get it all in lump sum.
How much?
I'm not sure. I don't have the formula. I apologize, I don't. Okay, anyone else? We good? Then I thank you very much for being here, 11 o'clock.